are very successful in destroying this planet and accelerating climate change to devastating levels. So the question is, how can we change our behavior and start to protect the planet? Today, I want to present you a step-by-step behavioral insights approach that can help us to change. However, first, I would like to talk a little bit about the reasons why I think we are not yet as fast in changing as we should. Classically, a human is believed to be a Homo economicus. Like a machine, humans are seen to be rational and to maximize their utility. And based on this assumption, we also developed interventions to change this human's behavior, laws and financial incentives. However, the last decades of empirical research showed that humans are not machines. Humans are influenced by their emotions, by the social group, and by the situation in general. And more important, this research also showed that these classical interventions, the laws and the financial incentives work, but not 100% of the time. Particularly not among those of us who most urgently need to change, the wealthy. The top 10% of the income bracket produces 50% of the carbon emission. And wealthy have many resources to circumvent financial and legal constraints. Maybe a more important reason why we do not change as fast as we should is that these classical interventions, laws and financial incentives or high CO2 taxes are not liked. So nobody supports this. But you need broad public support to implement strict environmental laws and high CO2 taxes. However, if we accept that humans are not machines, we need better interventions. We need interventions that are human-centered and that try to complement and extend the classical legal and financial regulations that we have right now. And this is the behavioral insights approach that I would like to show you today. It has several steps, and the first step is, if you want to change behavior, the first step is you have to define what is the exact behavior that you want to change and who has to change. Based on that, we analyze the barriers and motivations of this behavior, and then we develop interventions that exactly tackle these motivations and barriers. For example, we developed 4 interventions. We talk with the ethics committee about these 4 interventions, adapt them, and then move them to the field and test what works and what does not work. It's an empirical test, it's an empirical approach. That's the maybe most important thing that you need to know about the behavioral insights approach. It's an empirical approach. You need to follow these steps because you cannot assume that what worked in Austria will also work in Bulgaria. Another important thing that you should know is that this approach is not meant to force someone to change behavior. No, we want to help people to accomplish their own goals. I show you an example. This is a Danish study, and 67% report that they would like to buy clothes made of recycled material. This is a very important behavior. It could save so much energy. However, what do you think? How many of these people really can transform this behavior or this intention into real behavior? Do you have an estimation? What do you think? How many can transform their intention to behavior? What do you think? You have an idea? Well, it's just 6%. I guess you have many examples from your own lives. You want to do more sports, but you fail. We call this the intention behavior gap. And the behavioral insights approach wants to close this gap. It wants to help people to close their own intention behavior gaps. And how do we do this? We first analyze the reasons. Why is somebody failing to transform intentions into behavior? There are many reasons, of course, and today I just show you one reason or explain you one reason, and that's convenience. If you want to change behavior, you have to make sure that the behavior that you want to see is the easiest, most convenient behavior. And you do this by changing the situation. For example, if you go to a canteen and there are only meat menus offered, of course you also choose the meat menu instead of a healthy and most of the time also the pro-environmental vegetarian option, because it's hard to search for the vegetarian alternative. So you go for the easiest option, and that's the meat menu. And if you want to help people to eat healthier and more pro-environmental friendlier, you have to change the situation such that you enter the canteen and the first thing you see is the vegetarian option. This is now the option number 1. And the meat menu is the option number 2, the alternative for those who really want to eat meat. Many, many experiments all over the world showed that this change of the situation really helps and motivates people to eat healthier and more pro-environmental friendly. Now, I talked about the reasons why we need the behavioral insights approach and 2 important principles. It's an empirical approach, and we want to help people to accomplish their own aims. Now, I give you 3 examples of an implementation. The first example is from Germany. It's from an energy provider who offered to its customers the option to order 100% green energy, but nobody ordered it. So only 0.6% took this option. So the aim was to increase the demand for 100% green energy, and they collaborated with behavioral scientists, and the idea was we have to make this choice easier. This was the choice, how it looked like originally. So people had to make a check if they want 100% green energy. How do you make this choice easier? By already presenting the check. Now the decision is to remove the check. So the most convenient option is to go for green energy. However, if you don't want it, you can just remove it. It's a very simple idea. We call it default nudge. They tested these 2 versions with 40,000 people, and results showed that the default, the check, led to an increase to 5.6% demand for green energy. That's a 90% increase of the targeted behavior. The next example is from Vienna. It's from my own group. Some years ago, the city of Vienna approached us because they wanted to increase cleanness in social housing buildings. So the aim was to reduce littering in social housing buildings. We went there, we talked to people, and we found out that nobody litters. It's always the others who litter. Funny. Maybe it's an unconscious behavior. Maybe people don't even realize that they litter. So we decided to remind people about littering, and we chose 2 ways to do this: explicit reminders and implicit reminders. We used posters in this size, and this was the first poster. It's German, and it says, "You save 170 euros per year if you keep this area clean." That's a true number. It's explicit because it explicitly talks about littering. The second reminder was, we presented a norm. It's also explicit. We showed this is how you should behave, be a role model to prevent this from happening. It's also a classical tool of reminding people to not litter. Then we also tried out these implicit reminders because we thought maybe this is an unconscious behavior. This was our first implicit reminder, a huge poster of watching eyes, which caused a feeling of to be socially observed, and in turn, people behave more socially acceptable and do not litter. And it's implicit because we do not even talk about littering. And the last poster was this picture of an untouched nature. It's actually the Danube next to Vienna. And we wanted to show people, look how beautiful nature is, and we want to motivate them to keep this beauty. Then we distributed these posters among 400 different waste disposal areas. This involves more than 70,000 people in Vienna. And we took pictures from the floor, thousands of pictures, and each picture was rated by 2 researchers. We did this for 7 weeks, And after 7 weeks, we found out that our implicit reminders reduced littering by almost 5%, whereas the explicit reminders didn't do anything. And this example shows how important it is to test, because the explicit reminders are the way that most cities right now try to remind people to not litter. The last example is from Switzerland. It's from a utility provider who wanted to help his customers to save energy. The aim was to reduce energy-intense hot water consumption during taking a shower. And the idea was we could provide immediate individual feedback to our customers to help them to regulate their own behavior. So they developed this device. The device shows how much energy you use, plus it also uses a reference to nature and some gamification elements by showing a little polar bear sitting on an ice shelf. And the more energy you use, the smaller the ice shelf gets. They randomly distributed this device among 600 customers. 300 got the device, and the other 300 were the control group. And the results showed that this feedback reduced energy consumption by 22%. Well, I hope that some of you believe me or are with me when I say we can change people's behavior with behavioral insight tools. We do not need complicated laws or expensive financial incentives that are not liked by anyone and therefore are not implemented. We can start right now to use behavioral insights tools to help people to change their behavior. These tools can be used by every family, by every organization, by every city and every nation right now. You do not need to wait for acceptance because we do not restrict anyone's freedom. So you can start right now. Of course, we need strict environmental laws. Of course, we need the right incentives. But I really believe we also need behavioral science to help us to change. We just started doing this research, and I invite you to join this movement. Thank you.